Well, hello and welcome back. We're going to take a look at healing today and how to be joyous. And I mean permanently joyous, joyous and nothing else. We often experience bouts of joy, don't we? Little fits and starts of bliss or of wondrous beauty and feeling so great here in the world. And those are always, always inevitably interspersed with our own drama, with something nasty that follows something beautiful. And all of our experience is this up, down, night, day type of duality, type of suffering, because the joy doesn't last. Yet we're told repeatedly that who we really are is joy. We actually are peace. We are love. This is who we really are. So let's get to work bringing that experience about, shall we? Enter the spiritual path. Enter A Course in Miracles. And in the text, we're on chapter 5 now, Healing and Wholeness. So we're looking specifically at healing the mind and wholeness and oneness. And in section 1, we're looking at what's known as the invitation to the Holy Spirit. So healing, as we've seen, is of the mind. And healing is when two minds, I'm using the plural here for purposes of teaching and illustration, just as Jesus is here. Two minds perceive their oneness and become glad. All right, when apparently two separate minds perceive that there's only one mind, they perceive their oneness and they're instantly glad, more like completely overjoyed, ecstatic. There are not two minds, there are not 8 billion minds, there's one. There's one mind. It's shared. There is only oneness. After all, reality is one. God is. So what we're about here in the world, practicing this series of traditions and activities that we call spirituality, right? We're about clarifying our perception. First of all, that is the prerequisite to what the Course refers to as knowledge. Knowledge is who we really are. It's our state of simply knowing God, knowing without any concepts, without any need for references. There's no separation of any kind. God simply is, and we know this. So in order to have that experience, which we call the enlightened state, the awakened state, home, if you want to call it that, we must clarify our perception and learn to perceive things as they are versus how we would have them be in our ego clinging state, where we're all 8 billion independent, self-sustaining survival units enmeshed in all kinds of made up illusory competitions with people that are supposedly other than us, outside of us. Yeah, no, there's no outside of anything at all. So in spirituality, and this course is no different, it all comes down to a choice. So a mind that does not choose to be wholly joyous isn't going to experience joy. And if it does, it's going to be fleeting, like it is in the world. It's going to be in fits and starts, which inevitably leads to deep frustration and sometimes depression or worse, right? When the beautiful stuff doesn't last. Our mind cannot have what it does not choose to be. So if you're not wholly joyous, do you choose to be wholly joyous? Have you chosen to be wholly joyous? Have you decided to be wholly joyous? Have you decided that you want the peace of God and nothing else? Because you want to know what? There is nothing else. Have you decided? This is what your inner teacher is asking you here. And for many people, the answer may be no, I've not. Or perhaps the answer is yes, and perhaps you're on the verge of answering that question. Yes, I want the peace of God and only that. I choose joy. I choose my limitlessness as Christ. I choose my boundlessness, my brilliance, my magnificence as Christ. I choose the strength of Christ. I choose the peace of God. A choice we can all make, and maybe you'll make that choice right now, today. So, in these first few paragraphs of chapter 5, section 1, we return to a very important idea about giving and receiving. So, there is a famous line from the Course: to give and to receive are one in truth. And of course they are. There's no separate other. When we give a gift, when we forgive, we're forgiving ourselves. There's nobody out there. There is no separation of any kind, literally. So, yeah, of course we do that. And the ego always gives to get, doesn't it? It's a quid pro quo, like a business transaction. If I give you this amount of money, you promise to provide a certain service or something like that. Or there are in-kind business transactions, a thing for a thing, and they're all based on the perceived value of the things exchanged, aren't there? So those are just examples. And the ego always expects something in return. But what really goes on here is our reality as spirit has never changed. It's who we are and always have been, one with our Creator, perfect, healed, and whole. We're simply asleep here. Everything that we're experiencing here is a dream from which we're awakening. Hence the word awakening. Enlightenment is it's like waking up to a sunlit day when you've been dreaming. And the dreams may have been blissful and beautiful some of the time, and they were undoubtedly interspersed with frustration and nightmares. We keep things, we hold things by giving them away. It's the exact opposite of what the ego thinks, isn't it? By giving something away, we increase it. We increase it. The ego says when you give something away, you now lack that something. Profound difference. Now, this idea can seem a little weird at first, but even our most ego-clinging mind gets it when we think of giving away an idea. So forget for a moment giving away something that is physical and concrete, like $20 or a book or something like that. When you give an idea away, you still have, as the giver, the idea, don't you? Now, the other person also has the idea. It's strengthened, especially when the other person accepts that idea. The idea is strengthened by our giving it away completely, wholly, totally. So, what if you were to do what Jesus invites us to do here and see the world and everything in it as an idea? What then? Ideas are always shared without lessening the idea. You're an idea. Thought of God, extension of God. Let's allow that to sink in. The world is an idea. Everything in it is an idea. We're invited to learn to see things as ideas, which are only strengthened by being given away. Paragraph 2 here, there is some italicized language that I invite you to read and reread. Yes, that's all we'll say about that for now. Read and reread. As always, these videos are intended as a supplement to your own study, your own practice, and your own learning. They're here to help illuminate your walk, and they're in no way to be taken as a substitute for reading the material yourself. Whether you have a physical book or whether you're doing it electronically, doesn't matter. These are not designed to substitute for the course. They're a supplement, a learning aid. That's all. So back to our own power of choice. In paragraph 3, Jesus tells us that he can bring the Holy Spirit down to us, but only at our invitation. We have to invite the Holy Spirit. When we practice setting aside the ego, we're inviting our inner teacher to run the show. That is an invitation that we consciously make. And we do have to consciously make it, because our inner teacher will not come in and bludgeon us, nor force us to accept his will and do his bidding, like a king in the world forces his subjects to do all kinds of things. I mean, really, like a boss at work. It's not like that. It's not like that. Our inner teacher comes at our invitation. So have you made the invitation? The Holy Spirit is in the mind. It's in your right mind. It's right-mindedness. It's your self with a capital S, if you want to call it that. Actually, the Holy Spirit goes by many, many names here in A Course in Miracles. One of those is the voice for God, teacher with a capital T, the universal inspiration, the answer with a capital A, right? I'm fond of referring to the Holy Spirit as your inner teacher, and that is the language that I invite you to use, especially if you call your inner teacher something else. Really, you could call your inner teacher Jesus. You could call your inner teacher your guide or your guides. If you have more than one name for your inner teacher, then call your inner teacher whatever you want. What we're talking about here are universal principles. So you're invited to connect with your inner teacher and to practice under your inner teacher's guidance. It's the practical application of these ideas that shows us that they're true. It's the practical extension of the miracle of love. It's our forgiveness in practice that shows us that ideas are only strengthened by giving them away, that you cannot lack. The Son of God lacks nothing. It's by our practical application that we come to see that our natural state is one of pure joy. And the more we lift the clouds, the veil, so to speak, the more we experience this. The peace of God is something that is beyond words. It's beyond all definitions, all language, all concepts of any kind. Yet it can be experienced right here while we appear to be here as a self-sustaining survival unit. Remember, that's just what it appears to be. We can experience this. And how to be joyous? Well, choose joy. Decide that that's what you want. Because when you do that, you're, of course, invited to do it again and again and rinse, repeat, like forgiveness itself, until it becomes a habit. So when you routinely choose joy, what do you start to see in your life experience? Joy. You start to experience peace and oneness. Again, the mind cannot have what it does not choose to be. So let's choose to be wholly joyous today. All right. So thank you, as always, for tuning in. And thank you to all of the recent subscribers. We've had a number of you. This is the subscription button. If you've not subscribed and joined us, we'd love to have you do that. So please go ahead and subscribe. These videos appear several times a week. And as I've said here, they're intended to serve as a supplement to your practice, to your study of A Course in Miracles. So as such, if you have any questions at all, please feel welcome to leave them here. I am happy to start a dialogue, whatever that is that you may want to know more about, or comments, please feel welcome, even if it's just to say hello. Go ahead and drop those comments here. And I will see you again very soon. Thank you so much for joining me.